the opportunity to introduce our resource person. Dr. Zoindra Krishna Sharma is a gold medalist from Guwahati University, is currently professor in political science at Guwahati University. A Rotary Peace Fellow in the Rotary International Center for Peace and Conflict Studies at Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand, 2012, and UGC Raman Post Doctoral Fellow in University of Texas, USA, 2014-15. Dr. Sharma has published in international and international journal of repute. He also authored numbers of books that include Welfare Administration in Assam and The Autonomy Paradox, the interrogation of Autonomy Movement and Autonomous Council in Assam 2014, and also edited few journals, an eminent poet and columnist, and a popular speaker. Professor Sharma delivered lectures and presided papers in national and international conferences, including International Political Science Association Conference, Madrid, Spain in 2012, International Africa Conference, Texas, USA in 2015, Midwest Public Affairs Conference, University of Wilkinson, USA 2015, Visiting Fellow Address, Tillotson University, Texas, USA, among others. Today, today he will equip us with knowledge of theoretical framework of women right and human right. I hope that we will be enriched by his fruitful lecture. Welcome, sir. Now I request Professor Zoindra Krishna Sharma, sir, to start the technical session. Over to you,
Okay,
sir.
so I thank organizers, specifically the Center for Ethnic Studies and Research, CESR Guwahati, and also the Department of Political Science, Moridhol College, Dhemaji, and Department of Political Science, Morigaon College, Morigaon, and ICSSR, NERC, for jointly convening this session. And as invited by its secretary, Dr. Dipen Das, I'm very much delighted to speak on this very pertinent issue on human rights and women rights, which is very significant, specifically in this age of new gender relations. So if we look at the whole dynamics, then it's very important to understand the issues that has been taken by United Nations and various other allied organizations of United Nations. I'll focus on that. And at the same time, the national perspective of human rights and women rights. And at the same time, it's very essential to look at the local perspectives, that how some new ideas to be generated at the local level, some activism, that what type of active operations, active academic orientations, active diagnosis of the problem locally, because the local perspectives, the contexts may be different, and it's very important to look at the local level. For example, in Northeast, if we look at the gender relationships, these are or the issues of women rights as human rights are different in all the states of Northeast India. If we look at the gender dynamics in Nagaland, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, we find differences of relationships, how the women rights are being respected in different local customs and traditions. These are also very important issues. And within a state also we find different modules. So from local to international, it's very important to be looked into. And at the same time, the whole issue is very significantly related with the legal norms, statutes, different rules and regulations of the local bodies, different rules and regulations of the state and national institutions, along with the international guidelines. So for this, we must specifically understand very dynamically the network. Network is a problem. Okay. But very significantly, some network has been fluctuating. So should I off my video for the time being? Okay, so if we look at the whole dynamics, then we have to look at very specifically the issue of violence. If we try to understand, if we try to understand specifically Northeast India at the local level. So if we look at these dynamics of violence at the whether I'm audible now.
Yes, sir. You're
Yes,
audible.
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
In my this as I'm presenting from my home, therefore this my home connection is fluctuating actually from this morning itself. So please tell me if my voice is breaking, or if I am not audible to you. So please feel frank to tell me as and when I am not audible. So if we look at the issue very specifically, the question of that what I have quoted, the violence, then we have to find out different areas of dynamics. For example, violence, if we look at, affects the lives of millions of women worldwide, including in Northeast India. If we look at the recent cases, if you go through the newspaper headlines in recent times in Assam too, basically, these are the issues of, we may term as socioeconomic conditions or some kind of cultural conditions, but cut across the cultural and religious barriers. Okay, so the impeding the right of women to participate fully in society is very important. And then only we may think about the women rights in at the societal level. So if we look at violence against women, that takes a kind of dismaying variety of forms, from domestic abuse, I repeat, from domestic abuse and rape of, that means children. The examples are now, recent examples are there in Assam, and all are violations of the most fundamental human rights. So if we look at the Beijing Conference in a statement to the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing, held in 1995, it may be in September 1995, the then United Nations Secretary General Boutros Ghali said that the violence against women is a universal problem that must be universally condemned. So it's a very serious issue. And in the platform for action of the conference, governments declared that violence against women constitutes a violation of basic human rights. And this violation of basic human rights is an obstacle. Obstacle to what? Obstacle to the achievement of the objectives of equality, development, and peace. So very specifically, we have to look at in these dynamics that the violation of women's rights, what we are talking about now here, is specifically a kind of obstacle towards the achievement of the objective of equality. That means you are not in a position to achieve equality without protecting women's rights. You are not in a position to achieve the goal of development without protecting women's rights. You are not in a position to achieve the objectives of establishment of peace. I repeat, quote unquote, peace without protecting human rights of women. So therefore, the issue, I'm very specifically pointing out that the issue of advancement of women's rights has concerned all the nations of the globe, maybe all the conscious people of the globe, and also the United Nations. So if we look at the United Nations Charter, I'm referring United Nations Charter, very basic document for us to understand. It's Article 62 subclause 2 that is that it authorizes Economic and Social Council to make recommendation for the purpose of promoting respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all. It's very significant that another article, Article 68 of the United Nations Charter, provided this Economic and Social Council to set up commissions in economic and social fields. Why? For the promotion of human rights and such other commissions as may be required for the performance of its functions. It's very important. And in this, on the basis of these guidelines, what we find that Economic and Social Council, in its first session, established two commissions. Look at the importance of women's rights, what I am very specifically want to focus, that Economic and Social Council in its first session established two commissions, Commission on Human Rights and the Commission on Status of Women. That means one commission is Commission on Human Rights, and the second commission is the Commission on Status of Women. That is very important. And that establishment of a commission only on the status of women, along with a General Human Rights Commission, is in itself a significant development. And the importance of women's rights is also easily understood from the very establishment. Now, if we look at under this perspective, then we may focus various dynamics of women's rights in this area. Now, if we look at the functions of the commission, that how this commission has been working, then we find that it talks about urgent problems requiring the immediate attention in the field of women's rights, with the objective of implementing the principle that men and women shall have equal rights, and to develop proposals to give effect such recommendations. Now, if we look at the particular Commission on Women, that the Commission has requested the International Labour Organization, ILO, to promote the principle of equal pay for equal work. We are looking at that particular guideline in our constitution also. And it's a kind of request from Economic and Social Council or the Commission itself on Women to International Labour Organization that the principle of equal pay for equal work is to be promoted and to complete a convention and recommendation on the subject. So, so many issues, my point is that so many issues are being highlighted in this process by the United Nations through its council, through its different commissions, constitution of through different commissions, and these are reflected in so many documents of the countries, including India. So this commission, what I am referring you, that also asked UNESCO to encourage equal opportunities for women in education. That is very significantly understood in that perspective. Now, if you look at the United Nations work, because I'm referring United Nations very specifically because we find a kind of global, worldwide kind of understanding and generation of new ideas on human rights is because of the backing of the United Nations and its different commissions. And another important milestone I would like to refer specifically by the United Nations to work with respect of advancement of women's rights is the Declaration of the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. which was unanimously adopted by the General Assembly in 1967, maybe November 7, 1967. Now, if we look at this declaration is very important declaration. We have to remember this declaration, that declaration of the elimination of discrimination against women. The nomenclature is very, very much significant and very specific, that it tried to eliminate all forms of discrimination. I repeat, all forms of discrimination against women. So if we look at that declaration, it says that the discrimination against women is incompatible with human dignity. Human dignity, quote unquote, human dignity is very important. This discrimination against women, it says that incompatible with human dignity and with the welfare of family and of society. So if we look at the scenario of the time in the platform of United Nations, that means the discussion at the different UN bodies, and specifically through this the declaration, that what we find, that it tries to provide appropriate measures to be taken to abolish existing laws of the time, customs of the time, and practices discriminatory to women. They very vehemently, very specifically, categorically, they talk about elimination, talk about abolishing. What? Abolition of existing laws, customs, practices, whatever discriminatory and derogatory to women, to provide a kind of dignity of life to women. That is very important. That dignity, quote unquote, dignity, which we will find in UDHR, the document like Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Also, that's a very significant document to reaffirm dignity of women. So dignity only will provide a kind of a status where people, human being, live as a human being. So if we look at that commission, then we find various dynamics and various ways and modules to protect and provide human rights to women. So they are also talking about political rights of women, which is very significant. Now, if we look at that convention, Convention on Political Rights of Women, they talk about various very important, various significant issues, because political rights are very significantly understood, very significantly believed, that without which it's not possible to provide, it's not possible to develop the status of women, not possible to establish dignity of women. And it says, number one, women shall be entitled to vote in all elections in equal terms with men without any discrimination. That's very important, because today we are looking at a kind of equal status of women regarding voting through universal adult franchise in India. But if we look back the recent history, then we find that even in the motherland of democracy, the women were debarred from the right of voting because of various reasons they believe. Now, it was a kind of very important note that right of voting to be provided to women. Secondly, it talked about women shall be eligible for election to all publicly elected bodies established by natural law on equal terms with men without any discrimination. That's a very important connotation. And thirdly, if we look at very significantly, it talks about women shall be entitled to hold public office and to exercise all public functions established by national law on equal terms with men without any discrimination. That's again very important. That there should not be any kind of, there must not be any kind of hesitation to offer any kind of public office to women, any kind of public functions established by law. So that kind of equality at every respect is to be provided at the political level, at the bureaucratic level, and various other levels. So if we look at the different issues that has been raised by United Nations in different times, then we find various dynamics of development of human rights. For this region, I would like to refer one very specific resolution taken by General Assembly uh, in that is resolution 3010 was taken by General Assembly in 1975 as the International Women's Year, and decided to devote this year to intensified action. That's a very significant idea, that if we remember at that time, then this international year actually provided a kind of new genesis of thinking in different developing world. I'm referring this because that the not only the International Year of Women, but also United Nations declared 1976 to 1985 as United Nations Decade for Women. I repeat, United Nations or UN Decade for Women. That's a kind of a decade has been focused, dedicated for women, to be discussed on women, to take different resolutions for enhancing the dignity of women, to work in action in different countries for the development of human rights of women, so on and so forth. So many actions were taken, so many resolutions were taken, so many ideas and consciousness were being taken in this decade. If we look at this decade that has been dedicated by United Nations, which was unanimously adopted, proclaiming the decade of United Nations Decade for Women 1976 to 85 to be devoted to world plan of action to ensure equality, development, and peace. That what I have already enunciated through United Nations as forward-looking strategies. These strategies are forward-looking strategies for the advancement of women in society, without which it's not possible to establish a society with equality, society with the notion of development or establishment of peace in the society. So if we look at these efforts were inspired actually by the awareness that women's the role in the society were closely linked to the political, economic, social, cultural, legal, educational, religious conditions that actually constrained, I repeat, that constrained the advancement of women, and these factors intensifying the economic exploitation, marginalization of women, and oppression of women stemmed from chronic inequalities, chronic injustices, and exploitative conditions at the family, at the society. I repeat, exploitative conditions at the family, at the society. For example, exploitative conditions, I mean, Professor Amartya Sen in his welfare economics, somewhere he has written that in a family, he worked in the bordering areas of West Bengal and Bangladesh, and he found that at the time of lunch or dinner, the male members eat very simple things, but very significant things. They get some sound is coming up. Some sound is coming up. Is it for my network problem?
So now it's okay, sir.
Okay. So, voice is clear? My voice is clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So nice. So if you have any questions, then I request all of you, you are free to ask questions, raise questions in between also. I have no hesitation regarding this. Or you may write your questions in the chat box. We may discuss later because I believe a kind of in live conversations. I'm so sorry that today I'm not in a position to open my video because my network status is showing very in low status. Uh, Okay, so I'm referring to Amartya Sen, that specifically what Amartya Sen was talking about. Amartya Sen studied, just I'm referring that because of the how the women are being very much a victim, they are victim of the family itself. That at the time of dinner, maybe the male members of the society, they sit earlier than women for taking dinner. Even if the male member, the boy of the family of 10 years old, he used to take dinner along with his father. And if the girl member is, even if she is 13-year-old, she may take dinner along with her mother later on. And what is basically observed that the good things, for example, in the West Bengal or Bangladesh, this area, good things means the peace or good things that they are preparing for dinner. They specifically, the male members finishes all the good things, and the female who sit later on, there may be sometimes nothing to eat. Only they eat the rice and water or whatever. So this is a kind of, just I'm referring this because this is a kind of this issue is taken as a kind of normal issue in a family, but it itself is a kind of very serious kind of discrimination, which actually uh, uh, create a kind of chaos in case of nutrition and so many other things in a family. So if we look at other kinds of discrimination, for example, the discrimination regarding domestic violence, that how some females in some families are tortured by male members, their husband themselves. These are very serious issues. uh, Without solving these issues, it's not possible to deal with the issues like equality. It's not possible to deal with the issues like peace. That means if you are not in a position to solve the issue of domestic violence, how come you think about to establish peace in a society? How if the nutrition, the problem of nutrition is not solved for women, then how we look at the health issue very much in a proper way? I'll come to the issue of health very in a serious way because on the basis of CEDAW, that the United Nations Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women talks about various issues regarding health, and the India is also a part of that effort of United Nations. Now, if we look at all these dynamics in a very much critical way, then we find various problems that we are looking at in case of women's rights. So, if we look at uh, the very important convention, that the United Nations Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. I am referring these conventions very specifically because this convention, CEDAW, is a very important organization specifically to develop different documents and worldwide consciousness on women's rights. So in 1993, if we look at after 45 years of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, I think you all are aware about the UDHR and its 30 articles and how it talks about the dignity of women. And in 1993, 45 years after the UDHR was adopted, and 8 years after the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women entered into force, the United Nations World Conference on Human Rights in Vienna that was held in Vienna confirmed that, reconfirmed that women's rights were human's rights. So I repeat that to confirm all these dynamics, though I have already referred you that the year of women, women decade, United Nations Women Decade that has been declared by the United Nations. After that, again in Vienna in 1993, it was confirmed that women's rights were human's rights. So that this statement was even necessary, is striking, that women's status, okay, as human beings, how we elaborate, how we think, how Sidao think, these things are very important for us. How we think, how I think, how Sidao thinks, how our national government think, different agencies think. So women's status as human beings entitled to rights should have never been in doubt. So, and yet this was a step forward in recognizing the rightful claims of one half of the humanity, in identifying what neglect of women's rights as human rights violation, and drawing attention to the relationship between gender and human rights violation. That what I have already pointed out about the gender relations in the Northeast, that how we find differences in different dynamics. So if you look at the whole development of women's rights as human's rights, or the whole dynamics of gender relationship, then we have to focus on one very important conference which was held in Cairo, that is ICPD, International Conference on Population and Development, which was held in 1994 in Cairo. ICPD, I repeat, International Conference on Population and Development, which articulated and also affirmed the relationship between advancement and fulfillment of rights and gender equality and equity. Please look at that, the reconfirmation, reaffirmation, and rearticulation of the relationship between advancement and fulfillment of rights and gender equality and equity. So it clarified specifically the concepts of women's empowerment, which is a very significant domain, the empowerment. Empowerment is specifically linked with education. Empowerment is specifically linked with information, that how the standard of living is also very cordially connected with it. It talks about the whole concept is centered around women's empowerment, gender equality, reproductive health, and rights of women. So this reproductive health and rights is again very important issue that has been raised by International Conference on Population and Development. And they clarified the concepts of women empowerment. They clarified the concepts of gender equality, equity, and reproductive health and rights. Now, if we look at the program of action, their program of action, then they asserted that empowerment and autonomy. Please look at very carefully that the empowerment and autonomy of women and the improvement of their social, political, economic, and health status, I repeat, health status, was a highly important end in itself, as well as essential for achievement of sustainable development. Now, without which it's not possible to achieve sustainable development, maybe sustainable development goals that you are very much aware about, the goals that has been taken by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, that we have already taken the Millennium Development Goal, MDGs, and in 2000, and with an aim to accomplish them within 2015. there were 7 goals to be accomplished, and some goals partially being accomplished, but all goals were not accomplished, not fulfilled. And in 2015, after completion of the period of MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, UNDP has taken another set of goals of 17 goals to be completed, to be accomplished by 2030. And 17 goals were taken in 2015 to be completed within 2030, and gender equality is one of the important dimension of these goals. That so many issues are being taken. I'll come to these points very specifically if time permits. But one thing is very important, that how starvation, how the various issues of poverty, the issues of zero poverty, the issues of zero hunger, issue of quality education are very, very much related with the issues of gender equality. Because if poverty exists, if hunger exists, if people go to bed at night without food, then so many questions may be unanswered. There will be no answer of so many other questions. If you have no food to eat, then there is no question of nutrition. If you have no food to eat, then there is no question of justice. If you have in a state of hunger, then there is no question of quality education or gender equality. So the goals or United Nations Development Program is struggling to eliminate hunger. It's struggling to eliminate poverty. And at the same time, it has been trying to establish gender equality. It has been trying to establish quality education. It has been trying to establish, trying to remove dropouts of women from the schools, so on and so forth. So many issues are interrelated, and issues are so pathetic. Issues are so deep rooted to the grassroots of problems in developing countries, very specifically. We can't differentiate one issue with another. So it's very significant to be looked into that how in 1995, the 4th World Conference on Women, I'm very specifically referring this, I have already referred one, the Boutros Ghali's comment in this World Conference on Women in Beijing, which is very important because it generated a kind of global commitment to advance a wider range of women's rights. That commitment is very important. The generation of commitment. So many issues were taken into account at the time, but this commitment that has been generated by the 4th World Conference on Women in Beijing is very important. So whether I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, it's okay
Yes,
to
sir.
you?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if I look at the whole dynamics, then various issues are come up in this framework. As I have already talked about the inclusion of gender and equality and women's empowerment as one of the very important agenda of Sustainable Development Goal, and was also in Millennium Development Goal. This is a kind of a reminder that many of those promises have not been yet fulfilled, and these are very critical issues to be looked into at the local level. That how the women are actually living at the grassroots level, how women are living at the villages, what is their process of empowerment, what is their process of understanding on various issues like education and nutrition and health, and or their reproductive health, so on and so forth. So if we look at these local problems or the international agreements, we find so many issues of denial of women's basic human rights, which is worldwide actually expanded, because though these issues are being taken by various national agencies, various international agencies, various local governments, maybe in case of India, state governments are also taking various measures for protecting women's rights in different ways. But it's not possible. Uh, Hello, good morning. অলপমান সেমিনার এটাত আছো, মই পিছত কথা পাতিম। So if we look at all these issues, then what we find that that women are in a very much problematic situation too. So if we look at data, then we find that over a half a million women continue to die each year from pregnancy and childbirth related cases. So if we look at the HIV infection among women, then the rate of HIV infection among women are rapidly increasing. Among those 15 to 24 years range of age, young women now constitute the majority of those newly infected in global dynamics. So if we look at gender-based violence, then gender-based violence kills and disables as many women between the ages of 15 and 44 years. Okay. So if we look at the consequence, is very, very pathetic. So many data is being generated. I would not like to forward data to you, but it's a very very significant to be looked into the various issues that are very seriously being important to be taken very seriously. Therefore, if we look at the issues of, therefore, it's very important to look at the issues of equality. That's what I am referring very, very clearly at the very outset of my presentation. The issues of equality, the issues of development, and the issues of peace. And if we look at the equality, equality of rights for women, which is a very basic principle of rights, and which was also adopted by United Nations. So if we look at the United Nations Charter, then we find that the Charter of the United Nations set as one of the goals of the organization as, I quote, faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of human person, in the equal rights of men and women, unquote. So this goal, which is being reaffirmed by the United Nations, that faith in fundamental human rights, whether this faith is the faith of all people of the country, whether this is the faith of the government at the nations, and the faith in the dignity and worth of all human person in the equal rights of men and women, whether this faith in the dignity of equal rights of men and women is a kind of faith of all the nations, all the people, this is a very important question. Now, if we look at the Article 1 of the United Nations, which proclaims, I'm referring to very basic things because these basic things are very important to be understood to foster the women's rights in this situation. That proclaims that one of the purposes of the United Nations is to achieve international cooperation in promoting and encouraging respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to inter alia sex. That means it is very clear that how women's rights are being respected. So by the terms of the Charter, the first fundamental instrument to refer specifically to human rights and to equal rights of men and women, all members of the United Nations are legally bound to strive towards the full realization of all human rights and fundamental freedoms. That's very important to be looked into. Now, it talks about the matter of ethics to protect the women's rights in this age of development. Now, if we look at, I have already referred about the UDHR, that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights proclaims very significantly all these issues. These issues are very important to be looked into, that the entitlement of everyone to equality before the law and to the enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms without distinction of any kind of process of that means of discrimination of sex and so on and so forth. So if we look at all these dynamics in a very much serious way, then we find various issues to be taken into. So, for example, I would like to refer one very significant issue that has been raised at the time that identifies how women's rights are being treated as humans' rights in various processes. For this region, I would like to refer the whole document on Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. This document specifically talk at various issues of discrimination. It talks about various dynamics of policy measures that is to be taken by the countries. It guided various authorities, various bodies, local bodies, for example, the National Human Rights Commissions and local human rights commissions in all over the world, that how the policy measures is to be taken. A kind of guideline is being issued through this convention. Now, problem is how these guidelines are being taken into account, or how a kind of consciousness is being generated in different countries. And very specifically, more than that of this consciousness or regeneration of ideas, very importantly, the national laws, the state laws, the local laws, how these laws are being reaffirming, how these laws are being newly created, amended to provide a kind of equality and justice and various other dynamics to women. Whether these laws are in a position to fulfill the needs of women of present time, the needs, the discriminations that has been faced by women of present day, whether these new types of discriminations are being dealt with by these laws. These are very important issues. And what special measures are being taken to deal with this, the issues. For example, the issues of education, I refer, the issues of employment, issues of health, issues of economic and social benefits, and issues very specifically of rural women. These are very important issues. That nowadays, education is one of the important tool to protect, to develop human rights condition among the women. So how education is being dealt with. The issue of equal status of women regarding employment, health, economic and social benefits, rural women. So if we look at these rules and procedure, if we look at these different ways um, of creating a kind of atmosphere of establishing human rights in a society, then we find different results. Just I'm taking one example of health only, how these issues are being taken into account, and how the issue of health, which is in, for example, if we look at the convention, then the convention is divided into different articles, Article 1 to Article 30. I'm not talking about UDHR, I'm talking about the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And Article 12 of this convention, if I'm not wrong, Article 12 of this convention is dealing with the health issue of women. So the health issue of women, uh, uh, if we take as one example, because health is very important, specifically for women's rights, because without health, you can't think of other kinds of rights. Therefore, and that was also the thinking of the convention, and the convention uh, uh, affirmed actually the access of health care, including reproductive health, is a basic right under the Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. So health care, including reproductive health, is identified as the basic rights. And Article 12 of the Convention very specifically focuses on that. And it focuses the role of the states also. And it says, I quote, that it requires states to eliminate discrimination against women and their access to health care, uh, their access to healthcare services, their access to healthcare facilities throughout the life cycle, particularly in the areas of family planning, particularly in the areas of pregnancy, confinement, and during the postnatal period. So uh, it's the responsibility of the states to ensure and to eliminate all kinds of discrimination against women to access their health care and healthcare services throughout the life cycle. That is a kind of very important connotation to be looked into towards the process of establishment of women's rights. It's not a kind of violence of some group to women only. The health, internal health security of women is very important in this connotation. Therefore, we find very significantly, we find some dynamics. That women's health, I'm pointing out a very specific issue because naturally we look at human rights as a kind of violation of women's rights, as a kind of violation of some police, violation of some people, or violation in different ways at the society. Yes, these are violations. I have already pointed out how the violation of the right of nutrition or right to nutrition within a family, the domestic violence, these are the violences. But at the same time, one very specific issue I'm taking into account, which is from Article 12 of the convention itself. It's referred there, but it's a very general issue of human rights of women, that the women's health is an issue that is recognized as the central concern in promoting the health and well-being of women. So for the benefit of state parties, actually the convention talks about so many things that the concern surrounding with women's health is very significantly to be looked into to protect and promote other kinds of rights of women. Therefore, the United Nations World Conferences, it says, that have also considered these objectives. So it says that in preparing this general recommendation by CEDAW, that what it says, that the committee has taken into account relevant programs of action adopted at United Nations World Conferences, and in particularly those of 1993 World Conference on Human Rights, the 1994 International Conference on Population and Development, of which I have already referred, and 1995 Fourth World Conference on Women. So the committee also noted the work of the World Health Organization, the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, and other United Nations bodies. And in collaboration with all these institutions and large number of non-governmental organizations, some recommendations are being prepared. So these recommendations are very important here in this regard. It specifically focuses on various important issues of political, economic, and health rights. Now, if we look at the note of prepared by the committees looking at all these issues, they say, I quote, that while biological differences between women and men may lead to differences in health status, okay, they say very significant observation that while biological differences between women and men may lead to differences in health status, there are societal factors which are actually determinative of the health status of women and men, and which can vary among women themselves. For that reason, special attention should be given to the health needs and rights of women belonging to vulnerable and disadvantaged groups, such as migrant women, refugee, internally displaced women, and the girl child and older women, women in prostitution, indigenous women, and women with physical and mental disabilities, unquote. This is a very significant observation that how to look at women. Women themselves are in very in a vulnerable condition, and at the same time, some other some disadvantaged groups and like migrant women, refugee, internally displaced women, girl child, and older women, women in prostitution, indigenous women, women in physical and mental disabilities, they are again in a double vulnerability. So in this situation, that women's rights to health is very important. And how it could be achieved? It can be achieved only when states and local authorities, local government, local people, local hospitals, local parties fulfill their obligation to respect, protect, and to promote women's fundamental human rights to nutritional well-being. I referred already about the Amartya Sen's observation that nutritional well-being is being violated from home itself. And now how to reconfirm this nutritional well-being? For this reconfirmation of nutritional well-being of women, a kind of very rigorous consciousness is necessary at the individual level. It must be understood by all. So therefore, world document, I'm pointing out, you may thinking that I'm referring world document, but I'm referring world document to understand the local problems, to understand the local reality, that how actually local realities are to be altered in favor of observation of women's rights through the global understandings. And this is my actual motto. This is my actual aim to focus. Specifically, a kind of global standard is to be maintained at the local level. If global standard is a kind of maintenance of proper nutritional stability at a family, then this nutritional stability is to be maintained within a family. It's not a kind of global, in the name of global standard, it could be maintained elsewhere, not at my home. It must be maintained at my home. It must be maintained at my lunch and dinner and breakfast table. So how nutrition, the issue is very important to women's rights, specifically targeting the health of women. That's very important. And therefore, they are talking about the fulfillment of the obligation to respect, protect, and promote women's fundamental human right to nutritional well-being. Women's fundamental human right to nutritional well-being throughout their span of life, throughout their lifespan. It's not a kind of maintenance of nutritional stability, nutritional well-being in one day, 1 month, in one lunch, one dinner. No, totally no. In one lunch, one dinner, you are maintaining nutritional stability, nutritional standard of women and forgetting for other day. No, this is not being said by the World Document. This is not being the protection of human rights. The nutritional stability, the nutritional well-being throughout their lifespan by means of food supply that is safe, by means of food supply that is nutritious, by means of food supply to women that is adapted to local conditions. So it's very clear that towards this end, the local authorities, the family members, the state parties, okay, should take steps to facilitate physical and economic access to productive resources, especially for women, very specifically for rural women, and to otherwise ensure that the spatial nutritional needs of all women within their jurisdiction are met. That is a very important recommendation that is to be understood by all people very in a specific way. Just I'm taking water. Okay, sorry for this interruption. Now, if we look at these issues of so many issues, just I'm picking up one important issue of health. That's how the international guidelines actually is being prepared for the states. Actually, state parties take all appropriate measures to eliminate discrimination against women. That is very specifically written in these documents. How a kind of very special treatment is to be taken for girl children and adolescent girls. They are very much often vulnerable to sexual abuse by other men and even by family members, placing them at risk of physical and psychological harm and unwanted early pregnancy. That is said by this World Document. That it also talks about some kind of cultural and traditional practices, which is very sometimes very harmful for women. Cultural and traditional practices for to be adopted by women, which may carry high risk in different ways. In some countries, these traditional practices, cultural practices may carry a high risk of death and disability also. These are very important issues. In our society also, we have to look at various issues of such cultural and traditional practices which are to be performed by women, which may be identified as a discrimination against themselves. So it's the responsibility of the researchers. Here is the responsibility of the researchers that they must go to the field and try to find out the derogatory treatments, the derogatory measures, may it be traditional practice, may it be cultural practice. If these are derogatory to women's rights, then these are to be identified by the researchers vehemently with bold voice and to suggest the policy-making authorities to reform them. And a kind of a voice will be generated only then that how these practices are to be avoided or how these practices are to be eliminated. So at the same time, it's very important to look at the health conditions in a various ways. For example, the issue that has been talked about by the CEDAW, that biological factors which differ for women, in comparison with men, such as their menstrual cycle and their reproductive functions and menopause. So another example is that higher risk of exposure to sexually transmitted diseases which women face. So these are openly actually focused by the Article 20 of this document, and they are talking about the issues. That means how to ensure a kind of equality between men and women in access to healthcare services. And also they are focusing in this regard the information and education regarding these issues. And the issues are very important. I would not like to focus all the dynamics very in a serious way, but I focus that seriousness is very important at the local level. The international bodies, they are serious, but at the same time, how local bodies are to be take into account, that's very important. Now, if we look at all these dynamics, what we find that a kind of action is very specifically needed at the local level. And if we take action at the local level, if we take measures to conduct research at the local level, if we take measures to make different kinds of policies at the local level, amendment of laws at the local level, then only we will able to reconfirm, we able to reaffirm the standard that has been identified or depicted by the world documents. Thank you very much. I'd like to stop here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation. I hope that participants are highly benefited from your fruitful lecture. Now, I would like to request all the participants to share their views and queries, if any, they have.
Yeah, please.
Participants are requested to share their views, and if any, they have queries.
A few queries are there in the chat box. Sir, please, you can do this.
Okay.
Few queries are there in the chat box. They are given.
Yeah, I'm opening the chat box. Yeah. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Can you read out the queries?
Sir.
Because I'm looking at only good
yes,
morning.
sir.
Good morning. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one question is from Sangeeta Fukan.
It's a
she
below.
asks, yes, sir. Should Indian judicial system have some strict law to ensure women's rights? From Sangeeta Fukan.
Okay. What is the question?
Should Indian judicial system have some strict law to ensure women's rights? Okay.
Sangeeta Fukan, you are very right that Indian judicial system must have some strict laws for focusing human rights, because I have already pointed out that to protect and promote women's rights, so many issues are to be looked into. For example, I have very specifically focused on health issues, but it's not limited to health only. It relates so many other issues like marriage and family life. It's related to health along with education. it's related to employment, it's related to nutrition, it's related to sex role and stereotyping, prejudices, it's related to prostitution, it relates to trafficking, it relates to so many other kinds of domestic violence, discriminations at the workplace, so on and so forth. So laws are very important tools to protect